Whose versus whose. Avoiding common pitfalls. Hello everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode in our English language learning journey. Today, we're delving into a topic that tends to confuse many English learners and even native speakers. Whose versus whose. Don't worry, by the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of when and how to use these two terms correctly. Let's begin with whose. This is a possessive form of who or which. We use whose to ask which person or thing something belongs to. For example, you might say, "Whose bag is this?" or "Whose ideas were used in the project?" In these sentences, whose is used to ask about ownership or association. Now, let's move on to whose. This term is simply a contraction of who is or who has. For example, in the sentence, "Who's going to the party tonight?" Whose stands for who is. And in the sentence, "Who's seen my keys?" it's short for who has. So remember, whenever you can substitute who is or who has in a sentence, whose is your term of choice. The confusion between whose and whose typically arises because, in English, an apostrophe followed by an S often indicates possession, like in John's book or The Dog's Tale. However, whose is not possessive but a contraction. A simple trick to avoid this confusion is to try replacing whose with who is or who has. If the sentence still makes sense, then whose is correct. If it doesn't, you probably need to use whose. For instance, in the sentence, "I don't know whose book this is," if we replace whose with who is, we get "I don't know whose book this is," which doesn't make sense. So, the correct term here is whose. I don't know whose book this is. And there you have it. A clear distinction between whose and whose. Remember, whose is all about possession, and whose stands for who is or who has. Keep practicing these in your daily conversations and written English, and soon enough, they will become second nature. Thank you for watching, and we hope this video helps clear up the whose versus whose confusion. Stay tuned for more grammar fundamentals in our upcoming videos. Happy learning!